The Times reports that Alan Dershowitz lobbied President Trump to set Ghislaine Maxwell free. Dershowitz is the former Harvard law professor who represented both Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And during the final days of Trump's presidency, Dershowitz is reported to have asked him to pardon Maxwell, now a convicted sex offender, following talks with her family. Trump is known to have socialized with Epstein and Maxwell on at least one occasion. Here he is with his future wife, Melania, and the gruesome pair at Mar-a-Lago in February 2000. And in July 2020, during a coronavirus briefing, the then president wished the recently incarcerated Ghislaine Maxwell well.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well.
I wish her well. It seems that in his last days as president, while Maxwell was awaiting trial for sex trafficking underage girls, Trump, too, took a sudden personal interest in Maxwell's fate. In his book Landslide, The Final Days of the Trump Presidency, journalist Michael Wolff reports, one oh shit moment involved Trump's sudden interest in Ghislaine Maxwell, the former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein, now facing years in prison over allegations of her role in the Epstein sex abuse scandal. Trump had tried hard to downplay his own long relationship with Epstein. Has she said anything about me? Trump openly wondered. Is she going to talk? Will she roll on anyone? And so that's from the book Landslide, The Final Days of the Trump Presidency. When asked, Dershowitz did not deny discussing Maxwell's case with Trump, and Ian Maxwell, Ghislaine's brother, admits there was one phone call between Professor Dershowitz and a family member during which the generic issue of pardons was touched on. The generic issue of pardons. As far as I understand it, there was only one person at that time who was able to give out pardons, unless we're talking about a completely different legal system in which Ghislaine was not entangled, and that was President Trump. And of course, you'll remember that we reported last week that Dershowitz, who has himself been accused of sexual assault by Virginia Giuffre, appeared on a BBC News broadcast after Maxwell's conviction.
And the other question is, who else will be charged? Because the testimony introduced evidence that other people were guilty and involved. Again, Virginia Giuffre, she was alleged by the same women who the jury believed to have brought them to Jeffrey Epstein, knowing that they were underage, getting undressed, having sex with Epstein in front of them when they were underage, in order to encourage them also to have sex with Epstein. So I think the next question is, when will Virginia Giuffre be indicted and charged, rather than her accusing people like Prince Andrew and me and Ehud Barak and George Mitchell and the dozens of other people who she's accused. So the next question is, who else will be charged for facilitating Jeffrey Epstein's misconduct?
Ash, we talked on a previous show in more detail about, the BBC platforming Dershowitz there, but the fact that just a few days after that, it's been revealed that Dershowitz asked Donald Trump for a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, and this was a guy who was put on BBC as a neutral constitutional expert. I mean, the whole thing is, well, incredibly gross, but also beggars belief, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, Alan Dershowitz denies all accusations of sexual impropriety and having been involved with Virginia Giuffre. But even if we completely accept that denial, what's really interesting about Alan Dershowitz is if you look through his legal career, he really made a name for himself in defending very wealthy and very powerful people. So in the 1970s, he first distinguished himself by taking part in, civil liberties cases regarding pornography, political freedoms, right to assembly, so on and so forth. This big shift comes in the 1980s. He helps overturn this conviction of Klaus von Bülow, who was a very wealthy European socialite who was accused of killing his wife. He was part of the O.J. Simpson defense team. He defended Leona Helmsley, who was a very rich hotelier who was accused of not paying their taxes. He has defended Roman Polanski, who, of course, was charged with raping a 13-year-old in the 1970s, and also defended Mike Tyson, who was convicted of raping an 18-year-old. I believe this was in the 1990s. Now, obviously, everybody is fully entitled to legal counsel. And one of the things that you shouldn't do is say, this lawyer is a bad person, look who they defended. But it is very strange to me that this man who went from being counsel in these civil liberties cases, where you can see a real democratic case for taking part in these trials, shifted so suddenly towards, defending the rich and powerful in cases of rape, spousal murder, and non-payment of taxes. Now, I'm not saying that the only explanation for that is, to do with his own personal life. There is also the fact that these cases tended to be the highest profile. Many of Alan Dershowitz's peers in the legal community say that, look, the one thing that you don't want to do is get between Dershowitz and a camera. He's somebody who instinctively seeks out publicity, loves his time in the spotlight, and was also, made a very lucrative career for himself as a legal talking head, as an author, and as a commentator. But I think that this attempt to lobby Trump for a pardon of Ghislaine Maxwell, whatever way you want to look at it, whether you want to look at it as suspicious in terms of a fear that Ghislaine Maxwell would spill the beans on other people who were involved in the sexual exploitation of Epstein's victims, or you could look at it from the angle of, here is somebody who has consistently tried to shield the rich and the powerful from accountability for their wrongdoing.